Recording in progress. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's do roll call. Councilmember Crompton,
Excuse?
Emily Baker. Here. Farrell. Here. Happy.
Here.
Keller.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Mayor Fallon. Here. Any additions or amendments to the agenda? I don't know if we have committee reports or any applications, or does that come later?
No committee reports.
No applications or?
Not, they were turned, one we did get was not turned in time.
Okay. All right. Need to approve the adoption of consent agenda. A motion?
I'll move to approve, adopt the consent agenda, including the approval of September 11th, 2023 City Council minutes. Approval of September 11th, 2023 City Council workshop minutes, and the ratification of bills in the amount of $410,035.56.
I'll second that. Okay. Roll call vote. Councilmember Emily Baker. Aye. Farrell. Aye. Happy.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mayor Fallon. Aye. Passes. All right, public hearing.
No public hearing today.
Action items?
No action items.
All right, we're gonna move right on to 6. Appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives on issues facing our community. We've got Tiffany.
Sorry,
No. That's down to 3.
yeah, you have me down for 3.
Well, yeah, correct.
Yes. Okay. Oh, I think my number 3, you're gonna be tired of me, is that what you're saying?
No.
Alright, so I have a couple of things I'd like to talk about. One is an old thing, one is a newer thing. One has to do with the gift basket that the mayors were to give to present at the OMA at in August. Was it September, August? August. I want to say I have a few issues with it. One, mayors were notified on 6/14 when registration was open. I feel like that the urgency of what was done made some false steps that happened. And so it had time to go through the proper procedures, like go through tourism, go through the council. 2, I have a question on, and I don't expect an answer, but how a $100 fire pit is representative of Cascade box, considering we just had a significant fire. And 2, the amount that was spent, $273.93 was spent, and it raised $550, which in essence means that it really only raised $276, so barely more than what was spent to make that basket happen. Also, there is in your council procedures, which you have in your package tonight, on the last page before, on page 14 of 17, section 14 says expenses and reimbursement for mayor and councilors. Councilors will follow the same rules and procedures for reimbursement as those which apply to city employees and established by city policy. Councilor expenditures for other than routine reimbursable expenses, conference registration, travel, etc., must require advanced council approval according to the purchasing rules, which apply citywide. So, that should be addressed in the future. And yeah. The second thing is, I'm gonna go back to ordinance 457. Hopefully this will be my last time covering this. Because I know everybody's tired of hearing about it. But again, some really big sticklers in this ordinance are, how many people have gone to the dump in the last year? This ordinance has been set up for a long time. I know that but you have the opportunity to clean it up. How many people have gone to the dump? I know I went to the dump several times this year, helping an old lady clean out her house. And I did not come before council and ask permission. But the way that this ordinance is set up, you're setting up your citizenry to violate the ordinance. Unless they come and ask you permission to be able to take things to the dump. And that's, including Bernard's group and the the person who picks up metal and recycles it. And there's I saw a junk removal guy advertised on one of the Facebook pages. So this ordinance requires that they come and ask council for permission in order to be able to do that. So you have an opportunity to clean it up, read it thoroughly. Also, this also says that the containers should not be loaded more than 60 pounds. But the containers themselves say 122, so are we supposed to only fill them halfway? It's an issue. I understand you guys wanted to get this through really quick, but there are problems with this ordinance, and like I say, you're setting up your citizenry for failure. And I will say another thing about resolution 1487, which sets up the $4 fee. I may be wrong about it should be included in ordinance 457. I'm not fully convinced on that. I'm still doing research on it. But I am not wrong on the fact that you voted on it before the ordinance was put in place. So ordinance, reading 1, unless you get a full vote of the council. And then ordinance reading of the second reading. And then you get to pass the resolution. I would just really ask you guys just to please do things right, because we all don't want to have to watch you guys make sure you're doing it right. You should be doing it right on your own, and it's frustrating. It's just frustrating. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any others for appearance of interested citizens? Okay. Next one, 7, reports and presentations.
Okay, Bo and Colin from GoodLife Home Buyer, is that the name of the company? Are here to present again.
We'll grab it out of the chairs.
Thank you. Ordinance, if you can slides here.
Yeah, getting them over now.
Thank you all for having us back. We're all getting tired of seeing us every city council at this point. I promise I will let you have on all of us next time. Today I wanted to come in and talk generally about energy strategy for Cascade locks. We've been covering a lot of different components of demand response and how it may be a useful service that Cascade locks can integrate into their grid. So I wanted to bring it back and go through some of the ins and outs of Cascade locks energy agreements and how we can improve them for the future. So Jordan, if you can go to number 4, I think that's where we started.
No, that one, I don't know what's going on right before meeting it decided to not work.
One more forward here, please. So the objective of tonight was we wanted to talk about how Cascade locks can enroll in energy efficiency programs so that they can lower their overall cost of energy procurement. And that's going to be through our custom project as well as custom projects with existing data center for Cascade locks. Go to the next slide, Jordan. So this is the rates from ES. This is just to cut out from the consulting slides from the EPS describing what the rate increases were for Cascade lock. We know that everything came from the tier 2 rate increase, which is about half of Cascade lock's energy purchases total. And so if you'll go to the next slide, Jordan. Those tier 2 rate increases are what have set off Cascade lock's energy prices to be much higher than they were previous. One question that I had last time that I was here was, Cascade locks, you're supposed to have really cheap energy. Why is it so challenging for you to make your business model work here? And my answer to that is it had the best energy until a couple weeks ago when BPA tier 2 rates came into effect.
The other question being, we pay ES a lot of money, are you saying that what they're telling us about what we should charge our customers is wrong? And I would say, no, ES gave you exactly what you need with what you have. They're here to give you prescriptive items that you can do with your rate structure, but not necessarily give you custom projects or ways to improve your rates. So you go to the next one, Jordan, please. So some basic stats, as I was digging further into Cascade Block's energy contracts with BPA and how they relate to other cities and co-ops that get their service through BPA, I figured out that of the 133 firms that buy from BPA, only 15 utilities buy more than 10% of their priority firm eligible load in tier 2. And then 70% of those 133 actually buy 0% of their priority firm load in tier 2. So that means that 70% of BPA's customers buy no tier 2 power in accordance with their average yearly load. And then Jordan, if you would go to the next slide, we can see that the Cascade Blocks of all of the utilities that buy power from BPA actually purchase the most tier 2 power as a ratio of how much they could possibly purchase in tier 1. So this chart is just the 15, we'll call it the most poorly treated utilities by BPA. These are the people who get essentially the most expensive energy, and Cascade Blocks is at the top of the list, with most of them being far less than 20% of their load being served in tier 2. So the takeaway from this is that while BPA said that they kept rates largely level for their customers, that wasn't true for every customer, and clearly it was the least true for Cascade Blocks. So this is why we're seeing such a difference in rates for Cascade Blocks ratepayers versus other utilities and other utility customers. If you go to the next slide. So taking this into account, we're trying to figure out a way that Cascade Blocks can move forward into the future with a piece of leverage, a negotiating point, something that you can offer to BPA to get a more preferential rate, something that reflects the service that you're providing to them through demand response, which is what our project would seek to set up. So the avenue that we've decided on that looks like the most probable way to get these demand response credits, as well as just the easiest way to cut through the bureaucracy, is to establish ourselves as a custom energy efficiency project. BPA funds about 30% of energy efficiency goes to large custom projects like ours that are these 200,000 kilowatt hour plus savings type projects. We estimate we're at 1.2 million kilowatt hours saved on our project by doing our standard curtailment. And so this is our best avenue for how we can get the city to see some benefit, as well as use a negotiating point for the next 20-year contracts that are getting set up within the next year. Jordan, if you could go to the next slide, please. So the basic ask is pretty simple. We're proposing that Cascade Blocks request BPA service all of their new load at tier 1 rates. And in exchange for that service, we're offering to BPA at least 50% of Cascade Block's total load to be demand response capable. So current 5 megawatt system, that would be 5 megawatts of demand response. As Cascade Blocks grows to 20 or 40, we'd expect half of that load to be able to perform demand response services. In exchange for that service, you get to keep the best rates in the Northwest. We can go to the next slide, Jordan.
Yeah, we have that calculated as like the entire city being billed at tier 1 rates.
And so the general impacts of this are, if we were to put all of Cascade Blocks current load into tier 1, what that would mean for BPA is a change in their tier 1 system load profile by about 0.1%, and it would be 1% of the demand response capability that they're looking to achieve by 2028. If we expand it out to 30 megawatts of demand response potential, we're looking at still less than 0.5% of BPA's total tier 1 system, but offering about 10% of all demand response reserves that they want to have online by 2028. So in my opinion, this is a really strong negotiating lever Cascade Locks is a really small utility, so doing something like this can provide a really outsized benefit to you, as well as help BPA accomplish their goals for the upcoming 2028 post 2028 rate period. So the next slide has some of our cost assumption savings. And these are straight from the report by Russ from EES. If currently Cascade Locks had all of their load in tier 1, they save $620,000 a year on energy. If they served all of the current load above the rate high water mark, as well as our new load, we're looking at 1.35 million per year saved by getting Cascade Locks energy all into tier 1. So the next one is our last slide. We're going to keep it short for you all and leave it for any questions if you have any, but basically we're just asking for a good rate that we can make our business work with for the next couple of years, so that we can provide hopefully 5 to 20 years of, $1 million a year plus savings for Cascade Locks in every year that we operate. These programs are still in their infancy. I think it's a great idea to take advantage of them early rather than wait for everything to come out, be caught flat-footed. I've happily had a positive development finding the woman who sets all of these programs up for BPA. Just last night, I was able to dig through all BPA's documentation and finally find this person. Thankfully, she lives in Bend, so I'm hoping to meet up with her this week and get a chat about energy efficiency. But thanks everybody for your time. We'll open up for questions, or if not, we'll say thanks.
I love your ideas. There's a lot of if we can get tier 1. And you said we would negotiate. Who is the we? We is
City.
the Jordan.
Yeah.
And is this something that is coming up? This negotiation is something we're asking for.
The next 20-year agreements, the provider of choice agreements, are getting finalized, I believe, this time next year. So what I threw up on the screen is their proposed draft policy for those agreements. So that's still in flux. I heard from Jordan today that they may be pursuing a different structure. So this is still very up in the air, which is part of the reason that it's important to bring it up now, because it's being talked about, it's being negotiated right now.
And when you sound like you know a lot more about these savings and demand response than I do, and you were saying that we were gonna guarantee them 50% demand response businesses, how can we guarantee that?
So the city has their own growth plan. As I understand it, 20 or 26 megawatts are allocated for the port to grow. So the way that we would set that up is to make sure that any incremental growth the city has, if you're getting a new tenant in the port, that at the same time we're growing our load, so that we can offer as much demand response as there is standard load for Cascade Locks. My assumption is you don't want 100% of your utility and your revenues to come from one business or one type of business. So we thought 50% was a way that you can offer great service to BPA while still diversifying your load types, your business types.
And again, and then I'll let somebody else ask questions. Yours is a short-term 2-year proposal, so we can look at it and see if the magic happened, if BPA said yes. And it is your opinion that this energy efficiency is something that they're looking at asking for from folks so that we can get this deal.
Right, the energy efficiency department, as I understand it, heads up all of these different programs, like installing new types of lights, new types of heat pumps, and all of the incentives that go along with that. So what we're talking about is a custom energy efficiency project, and those make up 33% of the funds that they award to these kinds of efficiency measures that the customers install. And it's all through working with your utility. So we would actually prepare the application, and then I believe Jordan would actually send it in on our behalf. And so those credits will go straight to the utility, and then whatever the utility desires to pass on to us again.
And I know we're in the process of in talks with the board, so we haven't said anything.
Yeah, no.
Nothing is said, so we we're still in, we're working on it, we're close.
And we're flexible as well. My initial plan was only to get to 10 to 12 megawatts. I wanted to make sure that we did whatever is really in the best alignment with what the city wants and not just what seems to make sense to me. We do the best when the community that we're in is served to the highest degree. So whatever the appropriate scale is, that's what we want to get to.
Any comments or?
I mean, our whole industry is based off of, not being a priority first load. And so, we're really need to take advantage of that. I know, Aaron's organization that already operates out there, on private lands, the other big customer here in Cascade Lots. And, the other associations that I work with, they're, we've been operating in a priority first load, because we've been so small. But this is an opportunity to negotiate with the BPA and provide them the services that they seek. And we just happen to be, you know, geographically located in a perfect area for all these transmission savings. So, yeah, I think there's a grand opportunity here. And, the BPA needs Cascade Locks.
I know, and we always talk about what Cascade Locks is using, the 5 whatever megawatts. We always have to remember that a big portion of that is that one business, the same, quite a bit of help.
Yeah, I talked to Aaron, last week, and they're at like 1.2.
Right.
Just above that threshold to be the single large load customer in the city. And with the new rates that are coming on, I think they're going to balk at if they're stuck in tier 2. And so I want to see restrictions and constriction of usage. Because, you know, they're a big moneymaker for Cascade Locks utilities right now. But yeah, obviously something needs to happen because BPA is demanding too much money for the tier 2 service.
So we're doing the rates, did the rate study, and I think the council, a lot of us are concerned that we just, when rates are going up, we don't want the constituents to have to pay the burden of that. So that's,
Right.
we don't want to see that happen.
If we could establish early and set a high watermark for the city, it may adjust the threshold for the tier 1 rates. It will have a threshold. Yeah, it will. That same page that they're only really allocating 3 megawatts total.
It's 2.2 right now, and it goes to 3.09 with provider choice.
Right. So that's not very much in comparison to like Vancouver's 350 or even.
Vancouver,
Yeah.
it's like apples and oranges here,
Correct.
1,400. Roughly 1,400 citizens, so. Residents.
Councilor Miller has his hand up.
Councilor Miller?
Yeah, when Oregon Mines came in, Cascade Locks was tier 1. Oregon Mines pushed Cascade Locks into tier 2, into a higher rate. I'm not against negotiating with Bonneville to see if we can get that tier 1 rate, but then that would be contingent on us getting it to whether we give it to you or not. I mean, yeah, it doesn't cost us to negotiate. So I would go with that first. And what we get out of that negotiation will decide what we do. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks, Councilor Miller.
I just want to appreciate you, because, you know, as I said last time, I feel like it was enlightening for me to go through this, because I realize energy is your business, you know, it is the fuel that provides the ability for you to provide the service you do. So you understand the industry, I think, better than a lot of people. You provided us with, I think, some good research and information. I'd like to fact check some of these things with Russ, the person we contracted to provide a rate setting, and find out kind of what his input is on this. But I think you have some really good solutions for some of the problems that we, brought to you. I said, we don't want this to be a burden for the residents. How do we make it work? So you've given us a little bit of a larger perspective by looking at other utilities and seeing what they're paying to achieve pricing, but I think puts us in a position that'll allow us to negotiate it more effectively. So thank you.
If nothing else, I mean, hopefully this is helpful information, know that there's really only one way, which is to be in a better position than you currently are compared to other utilities. So I hope that's helpful. I do have some idea of what Russ thinks about our project, just because we spoke with Jordan earlier. I think the biggest question that you all face is deciding what the value of what we bring is. I don't think it's zero. I think if anybody sat here and listened to us talk, we don't think it's zero either. And I will just preface what I know that Russ told to Jordan, because his response, as I understand it, is that we should get the same rate as everybody else and we bring you no benefit. So my chief disagreement is that we're worth zero to you, but what we're actually worth to you, I think we're all figuring out in real time. So thanks for your time. Any other questions?
Kind of build off what Bo said, it's a very interesting time in the world of electricity right now, especially in BPA's region. Their 20-year contract is coming up. The electrification of everything is pushing the system to the limits. There's windmills, there's power, but then the whole issue of transmission lines. I mean, there's thousands of acres of solar panels and windmills in eastern Washington, but no way to get the power to western Washington. The infrastructure is not there. So I can remember where that project is.
Oh, customer energy.
Customer energy efficiency project is kind of EPA system to kind of way of helping conserve the power until they get the infrastructure up. And this is a new program for them. So there's just a lot of new and uncertainty in the world of power right now. So if it's your jam, it's actually really exciting, but it's not my jam. I'm trying to wrap my head around.
If we go,
Appreciate your honesty.
if we go back to the data you provided last time, there was something, I know there are different categories, but something that you were going to pay that was at what EES recommended for year one, is that right?
Our energy charge was the same as what EES recommended for year one. That's correct.
And then this is just a 2-year contract,
Correct.
so bear that in mind as well.
We're looking for stability and certainty that's honestly not as profitable as many of our competitors, but enough to make the first couple of years where we're trying to get the payback period to make sense. And then after that, we can suffer more uncertainty. And frankly, I'm positive that within 2 years, we can get you a better deal on your energy. But as I figured out, none of this moves as quickly as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Nothing in government moves quickly.
Yeah, and to his credit, Russ's goal and his job is to help us get a structure that makes us money and makes us fiscally sound. He doesn't look at the extra benefits it gives the city long term. Can we pay our bills now? That was his job, and that's what he's presented.
And to achieve our council's goal of getting
Correct.
our reserves.
Exactly.
Where we need them to be, that's why we have the rate
Exactly.
setting and adjustments that he's proposed. And to support that goal, he's not supportive of making any variations to that.
Exactly.
Are we done with the input from the people that are doing the presentation, or we have opportunity that we can have this discussion?
Well, there's Tiffany had a.
No, this one. Did I, BEC, it should be BEC. Oh, I'm sorry.
And Jordan or Russ, do you know is there any talk of when they're gonna set that new high watermark? Or is that?
I need to double check with Kevin at BPA, but I think they're using this coming fiscal year as what they're gonna use as the benchmark to set the high water mark.
So July to next, July.
It would be this coming October next month through September of next year, but I need to double check that. So actually having them online, the more power they use, it make it look like we're using more on average, so our high water.
We might push Matilda County out of tier one by raising our rates or getting a little extra. I guess is the idea, if we show a high water.
So we want a high water mark this
Well,
year.
I think that that's debatable. Sorry, I don't mean to just interject here, but I think we're always chasing a tail a little bit. If we use more energy, before the high water mark is determined, then we're paying higher tier 2 rates. But yes, you're correct, when they're doing the energy analysis, correct me if I'm wrong on this, they would then see our average usage is higher, so therefore the tier 2 rate would go up.
Yeah,
But
and that new high water mark would not kick in until October of 28. So it's
Hmm.
still 5 years down the road.
But this company has proposed they would pay what EES recommended for year 1. And that is the year we want a high water mark. Anyway, just putting it in my head too. We all have to math.
I think the big difference was not the regular rate, was the peak demand charge, was the
Correct.
issue that they were trying to negotiate for a lower rate, which was about 20% of what EPS recommended. If I remember correctly.
Right. And that's because we don't bring any, when we're operating ideally, don't bring any other incremental demand onto the system. So ideally, we're actually saving you demand charges, which is why we have a lower demand charge. But there's a lot of variables in this. There's no doubt that it's confusing. In the big picture, it's really just a question of if you think it's worth it. If you think it's worth it to have the service and to build out your city's grid with this in mind. I think we're too early to have really good hard data to show you this with the impact that it will have this year. But that it's clear enough, these programs are gonna be phased in, that if you're early on the jump, you can be part of that first 300 megawatts they want of demand response and negotiate the most preferable terms. We're also along a pretty important transmission highway going from Wyndham and Dallas to Portland, coming through the Big Columbia line. So transmission congestion is another factor that they're gonna appreciate. If we can lower that at certain periods when they need to get energy all the way to the city.
They talked about that, just because we're kind of first in line, doesn't necessarily be easy. They've got to get it to everybody else.
Right,
Yeah.
so being able to say, hey, we're growing our load anyway, we're gonna do a 40 megawatt substation. And we're gonna grow our loads, would you like it to be loads that you can't control or loads that you can control? I think EPA is gonna offer you probably whatever you want if you're a controllable load.
I think it's something to talk to them about. We can't make a decision without, unless EPA is part of that,
Definitely.
yeah. Because what we want or think we want, they don't agree to it.
Well, I don't even think EPA has actually decided what their curtailment technicals are and what their
Right.
thresholds or white papers operate at.
No.
So we're operating a little in a gray area as well.
Right,
We're just trying to make our part of the machine work where we can throttle from high megawatt usage to virtually nothing within a few minutes. And then ramp up when needed to maximize revenues for the city.
okay. Any other comments? Questions? All right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we still have discussion on the presentation now?
Would you like to?
Yeah, I feel like we've got some things to discuss,
Sure.
are we then, do we have agreement and consensus that we would like to negotiate with EPA on those terms?
So try to,
And if so, who's gonna do those things? I guess, first of all, we want to negotiate and try to, with EPA on that.
I think I like Mr. Miller's comment, it doesn't cost anything to negotiate.
I'm a fan of that, negotiating.
I agree.
Mhm.
But it's not current, right? It's in a little bit.
So is it consensus of council to like to
And
Here.
do some negotiations, and then I guess who would represent us in those negotiations?
I assume it'd be me.
Okay, I'll let you.
Unless you ever live burning desire someone on council to do it.
I nominate for
How does council feel about that?
I guess I'd like to know who would typically negotiate for a utility? I mean, I feel like it is really technical.
Yeah, no, it would be staff, yeah.
The staff and typically
Yeah.
the ones that.
Yeah.
Negotiate.
That's why Cascade Box is so unique.
Most utilities have specialists where we
Right,
don't.
could that be part of, could Russ be included in that?
Yeah, you probably charge for it, yeah.
No.
We do have, we have some money left on that, about $7,000 worth, you know how far that would get us, we have some money left on that contract.
I feel like we need someone to represent us in those negotiations and really understands the demand response portion of this, because I feel like that's
Yeah.
one of the key factors of this negotiation, is it's 50% of our load is variable.
Yeah.
Do you think that Russ is gonna be able to speak to that?
Possibly, I can ask him. I don't know if that's a specialty or not, but yeah.
Maybe he has a recommendation
Yeah.
too.
Is it conflict of interest to have a company
I
that's
think
interested?
that would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, we're your customers. So, yeah, we can't negotiate anything.
No.
The woman who runs or who created the systems for the energy efficiency system, and all the protocols for measurement and verification. She does not work for BPA, she's an independent consultant, so she might actually be a great resource considering her background is in demand response.
I guess, with that comment being said, what do you think about recommending that our city administrator maybe reach out to Bo Turner to get some recommendations on people that might be able to help us with the negotiation?
If they're, yeah, third party and
Mhm.
they're impartial.
Maybe they can't represent us, but maybe he knows some people that are in the industry that would be a.
On the same lingo.
Yes.
We know a few advocates. Yes, and we can get them in-house.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, we're talking about negotiating the demand response portion of it, right? What you guys have brought up.
Right, what we're essentially asking the city for is a unique billing schedule. But we all have to determine what's best for the city and it needs to fall on and into a category where the business model fits.
Is that clear, Jordan, to you?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, did you have anything to share with us from Russ about the, I know that we had some questions regarding the. Yeah, I think we kind of heard a little bit of summary, so it's in your staff.
Yeah, just this handout that was on your desk, it has their original proposal from 2 weeks ago. And then staff's, counter to it, again, this is with Russ's input, just looking at. What we're paying now for power to what our financial goals are and how to get to that reserve goal as quick as possible. Cause I mean, the cost of tier 2 is just gonna eat us alive, so.
Any questions, comments? Discussion? Okay. Let's see what this one is. All right, so on to 70s, council procedures. So before we go into council discussion, it looks like Tiffany, is it gonna be a?
Yeah, I have my little report, not a very long one.
Okay,
But yeah, so, in front of you is an edited document of the council procedures, the edits in blue, I think. That's the color, right? Yep. So at the September 11th, 23 council work session, council discussed updating procedures, focusing on public comment, agenda order, and discussion flow within the meeting. So the major changes were agenda order, public comment had been moved from item 6 to item 4 on the agenda to allow for residents to present earlier in the agenda. And those who are only there for public comment to not have to wait until after action items. The section other matters has been removed. Staff could not find a clear purpose for this agenda and the item has not been used, at least in my tenure. So it's just an empty agenda item not being used. You may know history that I wasn't aware of. I asked City Recorder Woosley about it. She didn't know why it was on there either. Public comment on all topics, agenda and non-agenda will move from 5-minute limit to a 3-minute limit. Comments during the public hearing will stay at 5 minutes. Discussion flow, set a flow of presentations and comments within action items and reports and presentations. Action items will go as follows: staff report, public comment, motion, council discussion, and vote. Reports and presentations, I actually would like to make one adjustment to that. Staff report / presentation from whoever's presenting. I'm not quite sure how I want to word that, but it doesn't really mention the fact that it's a presentation from somebody.
You're talking about, new, 6 agenda item action items or 7 reports and presentations?
7 reports and presentations. Yeah, so staff report / the actual presentation.
Presenter.
Yeah, presenter, there you go. Presenter,
Presenter.
public comment, and then council discussion. But pretty much what we just did. But there wasn't a public comment.
So now we have 2 individuals who would like to speak on 7B.
Thank you. So, just real short, why is it that the citizens get their time restrained? There wasn't a problem, it seems, up until this year, with allowing the citizens to publicly address their government. The problem really does seem to be not the citizens, but the agenda setting and the mayor not being able to effectively run the meeting. And it, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right that the citizens who take the time out of their day, I mean, I'd much rather be home, to cut our time down. And I feel that appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives, 3 minutes is just really not a lot of time to say the things that you want to say, and I really think that should stay at 5 minutes. I don't, did that get moved to 3 minutes, because I wasn't really very.
They did, yes.
Okay, so I feel like that should stay at 5 minutes, because, you know, you don't have that many people that are gonna take up that much time. And they might not use all that time anyways, but at least you give them the option and they don't feel rushed. And, you know, it's not always easy to get up in front of people and give your opinion, despite what it looks like.
Thank you. All right, and Cody, you had a comment on? Thank you.
I wouldn't advise this at all. I've read enough case law on this through the 9th Circuit, which Oregon is covered by, as well as Supreme Court rules. For one, you've got to define everything specifically. You have to, there can be no leeway here. It can't be liberally constructed like the charter is. It has to be what they call strict construction, which means if it goes to court, it better be clear in the law that you're doing it on, and your council rule is not that law. I hate to tell you that. They're a joke. And they don't apply to the people as it is. I keep telling you that. They don't apply to the people. So it is what it is. I've learned through reading these laws over the last couple of weeks that you cannot even remove me unless I'm being a danger to you, specifically with threats. And I'm a danger to the public. You can have me step away from the discussion. If I go off track, off the agenda item, you can do that. But I can continue speaking. And you can call the sheriff if you want. As long as I stay on track, there's not a thing you can do about it. Read the case laws on that. They're all over the place. Because you're talking about a freedom in this great land. And you're talking about the town hall concept here, that you're trying to restrict the people, which was built upon the people having input into the government to do what they wanted their government to do for them. You know, we don't work for you, you work for us. We have as much input as you do in this. You know, I can go, if you go past it, I can go do a referendum on the ballot, delete, which is what I'm gonna do on the electrical set that you're doing on the rates. I'm gonna referendum it, so I don't have to spend a lot of money in court. So, it is what it is. Plus, you sit here and snivel and gripe about the way you're getting treated online. You know what this is gonna do to you? It's gonna make it even worse than that. you're gonna lose control of it. Unless you were here for the 2007 to 2012 period, you have no idea how bad it can get here. None whatsoever. It can get bad. It will ruin your reputation, is what it will do. I'm just warning you. What do you wanna do?
We don't have any other public comment on 7B. So, discussion, 7B. County procedures.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as far as the 3 to 5 minutes, I feel like, this crew brought up some worthwhile concerns and things that we should probably talk about, and it wasn't explicitly stated, but I felt like since I've been on council, it's always been a 3-minute time limit is what we've told people, but that was contrary to what was in the procedures. And that's why we looked at making the adjustment, and the reason why we looked at 5 minutes for the public hearing is because those issues tend to be, I think, could be a little bit more tricky and give people a little more time to talk about. And I guess that was my rationale and why I thought that we had talked about like the 3 to 5 minutes and why we want to make that distinction. And as Mr. Simmons brought up, trying to define things more specifically so that it's not open to interpretation, and one person can talk for 3 minutes on one subject, and then somebody else brings up another subject, and we decide if we're gonna shut that person down at 3 minutes. So
Right.
More to it than that.
I too, I have been a part of city councils before in other cities, and it was generally 3 minutes, but since our document said 5 minutes, I would be open to this council's decision to keep it at 5 if we thought it was best, because that's what was in our documents previously. It isn't like we have so many people, as was mentioned. The only other thing I saw was, I'm not sure where committee reports are going. Or is that under?
I mean, it would stay under, reports and presentations. I just didn't think it needed to be a standing item always on the agenda if there was no committee report. Councilman Miller does have this.
Councilman Miller?
Yeah. How are council procedures actually changed? Is this the way we do it? I mean, we don't want to enact a procedure change now, only to find out later that we have violated some rules. You know, we've already done that many times. So I would like to make sure, either ask the city attorney, whatever, we need to definitively know how council procedures are changed. Thank you.
I think that's why we're having this discussion. This is just meant, we're not voting on anything, this is for discussion.
I will double check, but my understanding is through a resolution. And so my thought process was this come up with this draft from our work session, have council approve it, see if there's any other changes. Take it to the attorney, have them review it, and if everybody's good, present it with the resolution to officially adopt the changes in the procedures.
I just wanted to chime in on what Denise brought up. How many people come to present these? If we give people 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, very likely people may only take 3. It's not a significant amount of time, and then it makes it all exactly the same, consistent across the board. And as we've talked about before, I think it's really important to get input from people in the community. And the last thing we want to do is make people feel like we don't want them to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's part of it, because the current rules, it says up to 5 minutes. So that's why we've been running it at 3, it's what they've done in the past, we were just following history. So, but that's part of when it says up to, it leaves it open to interpretation.
I think that's messy. And
It is
I think that's
messy.
a real problem to say,
Mhm.
well, then you shut them down at 3 minutes, but then we let them keep talking if they're really loud. You know,
Right,
you know, so,
right.
What do you guys think about, I'd like to hear what other people think about amending the draft to 5 minutes for the.
I'd like to keep it at 5. I mean, if it does get to the point where we have 30 people here and they're giving 5 minutes each, then obviously it's a hot topic and we need to hear everybody. So
Well,
if it goes too long, it goes too long. I don't wanna be abbreviating it from 5 to 3 to save time.
Well, there is, Councilman Happy, there is provisions in there, though, if there's law that they can, where is it that they can, identify someone to represent?
It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're a group, but they
Right.
might be individual people, not associated with each other, you know, so.
Right,
What it says in our procedures, each person will have up to 5 minutes to present their comments. Groups with like comments will be asked to choose a spokesperson who will present their joint remarks. If additional time is needed, the presiding officer may determine the need and additional time limit. So if we had a real hot issue like ordinance 457 and we have 20 people here to talk on that, we could ask for a spokesperson and give them more time than 5 minutes because there's so much interest around that one subject. Did that change in the draft? You can't do that.
No.
I don't think you can, we can't force people to form a group, though, you know what I mean? You can offer and say, is there anyone here as a spokesperson that would
That's
like
true.
to bring it up? But if everyone wants to personally themselves voice their opinion, then they're allowed to do that. And I'm just saying that if, I don't wanna abbreviate people just because we have too many people and we're trying to save time. I wanna hear everybody. So,
well, that's something that that was already in, we're not proposing that change. So that's, or are you?
no, I know
That's what it says, that's what it said in the current council procedures.
Correct,
And that's also in the
Right.
proposed procedures as well, is that
right,
we would ask them to.
Yeah.
choose the person, but to your point, they can decline.
correct, right.
Yeah. I think a good example of that is a spokesperson is, the HOA with Windsong Two. We had 15 or so people here, but I think Clayton ended up being their spokesperson, so, and that's a good example. They all came here with one mission, but like I said, it could be 15 different residents who never got together, but all somehow happened to make the same point. I mean, we can't force them, like I said, to
Right.
join a group.
And it does, I feel like the procedures is, the draft that we have here does allow us to extend the amount of time if we have an issue that we need to have more input on. And there's a lot of people that are here to present on.
My concern about going from 3 to 5 is the increase in unorganized thought. And that 2 minutes is roughly 100-ish, maybe 150 words. And if we are at 3 minutes, the spokesperson is concise, to the point, and deliberate with their topic without delays in rambling or thoughts going off track.
Your choice.
you can hold your comments.
No,
If you just
that's
hold your.
that's convenience, and that's ruled unlawful under.
Cody, I would ask that you have your time to speak, and I'm gonna ask that you keep your comments.
Well, you can ask what you want.
I can, thank you.
That would be the most ideal, someone that comes up and presents, but we may be talking about, an 80-year-old with shaking hands and has troubles getting it out. So you can't, you know what I mean? I mean, it would be best if for someone to present as clearly as they can. But I have spoken on that side and I get nervous and get flustered and it's like, wait a minute, I'm about to say something. So it's hard. I mean, unless you're a really good public
is.
speaker, so,
It is hard.
yeah.
So you've had an opportunity, has everyone had opportunity to see the changes in blue?
Are we done with the 3 to 5 minutes? I would like to move on to an alternate topic. If that's fine. I would like to add some sort of clarity of deliberate accusations and deliberate name calling and deliberate threats towards specific members on the council. And
Is that in the procedures or?
So you're talking about
Yeah.
decorum, you're
yeah,
talking about decorum and
yes.
yes, because we don't have anything in there currently on, in there.
Decorum and order is page 6.
Six. Let's find it.
5.4.
I'm on page 6 and 7.
Yeah, 7, it looks like 5.4, yeah.
There we go.
That's a tax on person, 100%.
Something like that.
Does this not address what you're referring to?
Which one?
Page 7, section 5.4, decorum and order,
Which letter?
any of it. You don't think 5.4.a prevent attacks on persons or personalities, confine debates to the subject under discussion? Does this not address the concerns that we brought up?
I know there was a city, while he was reading that, I know there was a city council meeting from long ago where, the mayor did shut down the meeting and took a break. I mean, so
No, I get that. I guess what I'm saying is that I want to hear the citizen's point of view. But a citizen does not get to attack a member of the council
Yes, I do.
and say,
Cody, I'm gonna sorry, Mr. Keller, Councilman Keller.
I'll just send you the court case,
Okay.
okay?
Cody, I am gonna respectfully ask you to keep your comments to yourself. If you can't, I'm gonna ask you to go, but we can't have it.
Well, that-
So. You good with that?
We'll see.
Okay,
So.
but we're running a meeting and this is not how meetings are ran. So I'm gonna respectfully ask you to be respectful to council and everyone else here in the meeting.
You gotta earn
Please.
that respect, man.
Councilman or Keller, I mean.
no, it's it just,
Yeah,
we've listened to members of this audience threaten and say various actions. We've had people call members of this council names. That is not a level of professionalism that should be allowed within this room. And it needs to be stated in there that if you present, this is the level of decorum that you're being held to. And that is not a professional manner in which anybody deserves to be treated. And you have, yes, like, there is the freedom of speech and you get to say what you want. But the Supreme Court has established a compelling interest that your rights are restricted for the compelling interest of society. And so this is an interest of professionalism, of decorum that needs to be respected. And to have face threats and name calling is childish and inconsiderate of the actions in which we are obtaining.
I feel like it is a little ambiguous too in here, Mr. Keller, where it says. Council members help the presiding officer preserve decorum during council meetings and are not required to follow the direction of the presiding officer and its council rules, but. Is there anything in there that, I know further in here, and I lost the spot where we can actually remove somebody upon a vote from council or the presiding officer can. But I felt like that rule was there because there might be a situation where we want to remove the presiding officer. But I read the decorum and order is applying to everybody that's present for the meeting. But is that because of the way I'm reading it, or is that the way it's written?
I don't take it as a member of the citizenry coming to present is held to the same standard of decorum, or at least it's not being upheld. It seems like we go back to this, what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and do we want gray area or do we want black and white? You want 3 minutes or do you want 5 minutes? I think this is a situation of a gray area, and I want black and white that says this childish behavior is unacceptable.
Yeah, so I guess you're right, I mean, the heading is council discussion of public meetings. right? This has nothing to do with public appearance of publics, that are presenting at the meeting, correct?
And there are other cities that have decorum language for public speakers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we
Totally,
had
I
that.
don't.
We looked at, I think even one, maybe last work session. That there is a decorum that should be the same. Prevent attacks on persons or personalities, and confine the debate to the subject under discussion. For people speaking as well, and then the presiding officer shall preserve that decorum, and we as council members should, it says. Can help the presiding officer by using point of personal privilege. Decorum was not met, and yet I don't see decorum for citizens listed in our procedures.
Councilman Keller, there are some, I can pull up some cities that do offer more specific language. Not just for council, but for presenter.
Yeah.
as
Oh, yeah,
well.
I mean, I'm sure
Right,
our council can copy and paste something, or
Mhm.
it's already existed, we don't need to rewrite it,
right.
I would prefer that it's included.
We don't need to rewrite it, but we have to put it included in our procedures.
Yes,
So
that's
I-
what I would prefer, that's
Right.
what I'm asking for.
I do know that, we have Oregon City's meetings coming up in October, and this is one of the subjects that a lot of the mayors are talking about, so I think it would be really helpful. And then maybe get ideas with, because it's hard to compare us to Salem or somewhere else, but other small communities.
Yeah.
So,
This came up at our last workshop too. The way that we run our meetings really should be the best way to run our meetings. It's not dependent on the population.
right,
You know,
right.
Salem may have a better way of running the meeting, and yes, they're a much larger municipality than we are,
Sure,
but size, and population maybe don't necessarily. I guess I wouldn't want to, only restrict us to looking at council procedures for
right.
locals, you know, small.
I like to get a mix.
But I guess what you bring up is a good, you know, I think we need to get some clarity around that. We talked about the minutes. I think we got some consensus on adjusting that to 5. But what I think you're saying is that you'd like to see if we could have more clear language in our council procedures about the forums or people present at the meeting, not because people on the council. I'm supportive of that.
Consensus of council to look into that.
You can look into it, I feel it's assumed in here, but I'm open to you looking into it.
I think that's a problem we've run into though, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is that we want to make it so that it's, you don't have to. And I assumed it too, reading it, you
Yeah.
know, but. Your point, it's under council comments, discussion in public meetings, so.
Councilman Miller, do you have a comment or any input on that?
No, I'll save mine until we get to voting on it.
Okay. We're not voting on anything on this right now.
I'd like to hear if anybody had any other comments about the other edits in the
I do.
procedures.
I was wondering.
What page are you on?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I had it open and then okay, page 4 of 17, so. Under number. What would be 6, action items, so, staff report, public comment, motion, and then. Is it assumed, or do we need to put in and seconded? Before we go to council discussion,
That's assumed,
it's assumed.
yes, because if there's no second, there's no discussion, it dies right there.
In the procedures, it does state that very black and white.
Then it's, all right then.
I didn't know if we can add it in there.
No,
But that was when we wrote it, that was.
I just wanna make sure, because sometimes there isn't a second, so, okay.
And then under reports and presentations, you will say staff report / presenter / committee, like that?
Just presenter.
Okay, we don't put committee in there.
You want committee on it, huh? You want committee?
I do.
suppose if you were on a committee, you'd like to see on the agenda where you're gonna be. The word committee.
Well, yeah, if they have something to present, I'll put them on there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's always been, it was in
It was
here,
always on there.
standing on there, even though. I think one meeting so far, in the 11 months I've been here, there's actually been a committee presentation, so having it sit there with never having a committee here seemed pointless to me.
I do want to point out, pardon me, that it's part of our committee guidelines that they're meant to give a report to the next city council meeting after their last meeting, and I'd like us to uphold what we have asked them to do, even if it hasn't been done. So that's why I want to make sure that it's there.
Well, I think that's kind of a separate subject, I'm about just how the meetings go, if reports and presentations. As far as the tourism, not giving a report or any of the committees, they would just fall under that, but if we get them to report.
But if it says staff report or presenter, then I would like to include committee.
I think I'm getting a feel from you that, by having the word committee in there, we're being more open to letting them know, hey, you're gonna be presenting your report. It's kind of like if they disappear off of it, that reminder goes away. I don't know.
That's,
I kind of get that.
yeah. It's something that we ask for in our guidelines, so we should make sure there's a spot for it every time.
I mean, it can stay on there.
I want it to stay on there. I mean, it only takes a second to say, no, there's no reports tonight. Because it's more welcoming to them to, here's a spot for you. I don't know.
That makes sense.
And I'm good either way, I just like clean agendas.
So keep it,
I
okay, any other comments? Discussions? Okay, I saw you opening your book, I'm like, are you ready to go?
Again, just confirm, so we are keeping it at 5 minutes, was that consensus
For all.
for both public comment and public hearing? Okay.
So let's move on to 7C. Like comment for one.
At the September 11, 2023 council works session, council discussed updating the request to present public comment form and package a draft for review. Removed was the address being requested. In addition was agenda item number, whether they're a resident of Cascade Locks, an email request, a writing down of email, a notice of a public document, letting them know that once this form is turned in, it becomes a public document. And instructions on the reverse side of the form. In the packet is the draft of the new one as well as the current form we use.
General public comment, 3 minutes, public hearing 5.
Yes, which will now be changed.
Okay.
I'm just wondering also if we might, if there's a room under the instructions to put maybe 2 sentences about the
Do
quorum.
we do public comment first?
Yeah,
One.
see if we have public comment.
Yeah, sorry.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I apologize.
I don't have any on.
I think I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize, you are. Oh, I switched it, or you did.
You could, right, you could.
I did.
You're right. The only thing that I can see on this form is that it's not really clear if a person has to fill out a form for each different subject that they want to talk to, or are you going to, because it only, I think the form only said item to be discussed. Yeah, so, or items, I guess you should put like an S in parentheses on it so that people know that they can do more than one item, because it kind of gives the feel that you can only speak on one thing.
Yeah, didn't we talk about having one form for each item we want to talk about? I remember.
Right,
I can't remember specifically talking about that.
Okay, maybe that's what I had in my mind, and so
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
but yes, we can, sorry.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Otherwise, you're gonna, the mayor's gonna have like lots of things on our desk, trying to keep track of files, and I don't know, I mean. It's, a lot of these things that you guys are discussing tonight have to do with the mayor managing who says or how much people can say. So, you know, the mayor has a lot of sway in how the meetings are run. So just consider that.
So I don't. No one else wants to see, all right, you know, it would be helpful. For who's ever presiding, mayor, myself, or anybody else, if you do have separate ones, because otherwise, when they're all bunched.
Yeah.
On this, it makes it hard, just like what happened, but if they fill out a separate one for each. Agenda item, it would be really helpful, because that way, once you get it through 7B pile or whatever you've got that. So it's very clear.
It is noted in the instructions that upon completing the form, it goes to Maryland, who will then, or the deputy city recorder or designee. Who will organize it and get it to the mayor before the meeting.
So one should be completed per topic.
One per topic and then organized in piles by topic.
Should we-
Also can be used when I'm doing minutes and I can
Yep.
keep track of that was what that topic was, who.
I think it would make a lot of sense, you know, this thing
Right.
personally, after
Right.
trying to fill your sheet last week, it's easy to.
It's easy to,
And I think
Yeah.
it's really important, but I do think that it needs to be clearly stated on the form that there is one form per topic.
Yeah.
So we need to write that somewhere in instructions.
we need to add that.
How about right there, says please print, complete one form per topic
Okay,
and bold it at the top.
There we go.
And I will change the zip code on the back, that's correct on zip code for my.
I wrote a lot that day.
Yeah.
So how does it work for people that want to speak, that are presenting, maybe that are attending virtually via Zoom, are they required to fill this out and email it ahead of time? Is that?
They email their questions to him in advance.
Mhm.
And that's the only way, so somebody that's,
You know, I thought of that, I mean, if there's people who come on last minute and want to say something, I mean, they should get a chance to talk. But if they want to actually have myself or whoever it is read it out, they can't make it in person, they need to fill this form and send it to the deputy recorder. But if somebody hopped on right now and wanted to make a comment at the next topic, they have the right to, I mean. We could ask them to go to the website and fill one out after the fact.
I think we should have this digitally.
Yes, that.
Honestly, I really do, because I feel like that also, what we're trying to do is create, sorry, I didn't just interject here, but like, it should be consistent.
Yeah.
And whether someone's attending virtually or in person, if we're telling people they gotta provide this information before they speak, then I feel like they should provide that information before they speak, whether they're here or virtually. But I do feel like we have to enable them ability to.
Yes,
To
yeah.
do that. Does that make sense to you guys?
Can we, I know it takes up room, but can we put one in the newsletter that goes out with the bills, that just one time, the form? Let people know here it is, I mean, that way that have it right there. in
Yeah,
their
we can do
hand,
that, yeah.
You know, because people that aren't following our council, they're not gonna know, you know, that this is.
Lump it in monthly? The extra
Or just the
monthly.
one time, just the one time, yeah, just to let people.
Maybe twice a year, every 6 months or so.
Quarterly or something.
I wonder how many people know that they could send a letter to, you know, an email to.
Yep.
To you and have it just read. at this council.
It's in the newsletter every month,
Is it?
that they can email me any comment and I will read it, but other than Janice's last week, I haven't got one.
I noticed it says by, so it's okay to have it by 6 p.m. in the newsletter, it says 3.
Yes, well, yeah. So once this is updated, we'll update the newsletter.
Okay, and that's okay for you, with you?
We'll be here till 6 p.m.
Okay.
30 hours, so yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright. Well, I like the new form versus the old. Yeah.
I did see something on one of our samples from last week, and I think it's important that we start thinking about this. Is disability related accommodations. This, it can be under quick special note. Contact the city, this particular one says, to request a disability accommodation or interpretation, contact the city recorder 48 hours prior to the city council meeting. I think we do need to start thinking about ADA access. So I can take that from this sample, but I think Councilman Kelly gave us.
Was that the Florence one?
It doesn't.
I've got the thing.
Let's say.
Salem, last page of Salem,
Okay.
I was just even looking at the last sentence. To request not such an accommodation or disability related. Accommodate, so it didn't have to be 3 sentences. And then at such time as a sign language interpreter or another language interpreter is needed, we'll have to figure that out. 48 hours.
There's services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Too many notes of the changes.
Yep.
If we do it electronically, would you be receiving an email?
I would like them all to go to the deputy recorder.
But what I hear, okay, what I interpreted as Councilman Happy saying is that if somebody wants to talk about 7D, they could email, they could fill out this form and be ready to go for 7D. But if it's not email, like, does that make, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like, but. If. I guess in a perfect world, the way I saw that would be that they would complete it prior to the meeting. And then Maryland would be able to collect those and organize them with the ones that we collect in person. But what would happen if somebody shows up in the middle of the meeting and they want to speak and, you know, I think it would. Yeah, I think it would be. Probably the wrong thing to do would be to say you can't talk, just because you didn't fill out the form, but I think it would really it'd be nice to give people the opportunity to speak that are attending virtually. But I think that also it would be really beneficial to have all of those collected ahead of time.
No, that, and how do you clear that up, that this is the expectation for one person, but because you show up to the meeting at 7:30, you get exempted in another manner, like.
And let them know that, next time you need to fill out the form. What I would do, I mean.
We also can put it on the agenda like we do other things. And, we post the agenda at the, online and at the post office, we can put down here, go to the website and download the form if you want to speak. We can have that, or put a link,
Yeah.
an URL down there. I like the link.
Not that I want to add more to play during these meetings, but once it's online, we can put the link to it in the chat. And they can do it that way and email it to me, but.
I mean, even a QR code would be.
And Jordan, we're getting some
Yeah.
PDF fillable forms.
Working on it, yeah, I know there's a special Adobe license we have to get.
Well, can I hit on that? 'Cause I feel like that's a bigger topic than just this, and so maybe we don't want to go into that right at the moment, I don't know, but.
How can you fill it out if it's not fillable?
It doesn't have to be a PDF fillable form to be for us to collect that information. You can have web forms, like Google Forms are free, they don't require us to have a PDF license, it doesn't need to be a PDF fillable form per se. What we need is a web form that collects the information that's required.
Okay.
Does that?
As long as it's
Right.
fillable, because right
Yeah.
now, most of
Well, I
our
mean-
forms have to be printed and filled in.
Yeah, that makes more sense, like we have for the emails to counselors, it captures all that, shoots it to me in email.
That's right, and you can designate on any of those web forms the recipient of who gets that form when it's completed electronically. So in this case, for the speaker form, those responses could go to Maryland's email.
Is the email service working? No?
So each of the counselor emails are separately listed on the website. I haven't checked the form service in a couple weeks, so. I haven't received any either, so I probably should double check that.
Okay.
I just want to bring that up because I didn't want money to be.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have identified the type of form, but I would love to see fillable forms of some
And I think that also gets to your point about the ADA access, because there might be people that would like to attend that have mobility restrictions that preclude them from being able to be here in person. So,
Or language, yeah, restrictions are here.
I was just wondering if I could get clarification on, position on issue. Why is that on there? I mean,
I think a discussion about this actually last time,
I think
it might be for me. And I think it was Councilman Aaron Council, when Emily Baker said, it's really so that when we're organizing, when we end up with everybody speaking for and then everybody speaking against, you can kind of have 1 for, 1 against, 1 for, 1 against, 1 for, 1 against. Is that right?
That's what I've seen at other council
that's how they
meetings.
would organize it?
I mean, we can organize it any way council decides to organize it, if they want, all the boards together and all against, or.
It just doesn't,
Or if you want, and they be presented in the time that they were
that's what I would
forward,
like to see,
like,
because I don't
so and so brought theirs.
I don't like that.
I don't know if it's Robert rules, but it's what I've always seen at every meeting was 1 for, and then the presenting officer would say, let's say you have 6 against left, and you'd say any of these 4, because somebody might not have.
I think this is more for the actual public hearing itself, because in public hearings, there is a specific spot on the agenda for opinions for, and then opinions against, and then neutral opinions. So the actual context of a normal meeting, I don't think it matters.
They wouldn't necessarily know what the motion is. So are they gonna be for or against it?
But yeah, that's more for the actual public hearing.
Do we wanna maybe add some clarification that for or against in parentheses for public hearings only?
Well, that would be, but there are 2 different forms, so right?
No,
This is 1 form to vote.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Paper stating that we.
Like clarification on that.
So for, maybe have like, public hearing position on anything.
Yep.
How's that sound?
I like that.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions on the point?
Are we adding a sentence or 2 about the quorum, the instructions?
I thought that was something we just talked about. We were going to get some, I thought that was the agreement, was that everybody agreed that we wanted to get.
So on the form, back of the form.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were talking the procedures, but we would include those on the form as well.
Correct.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other comments? All right, Jordan, you got those?
Yep. I will try and fit all of that on a half a sheet of paper. Or would you go full sheet? I mean.
Smaller font.
Yeah, I mean, Florence's was a full sheet of paper, so.
I don't know about on smaller font.
No.
That's me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's move on. All right, so 70, city administrator. Amendment.
All right, so first item, sewage leak, as an email, I stated I sent council on Friday, September 15th. The pump at the Marina Lift Station failed at about 4:30 a.m. and roughly 17,000 gallons of sewage spilled into the Columbia River that morning. The emergency calls to notify on-call staff failed and the leak was not caught until Jacobs came on duty that morning around 9 a.m. All parties are looking into the cause of the pump failure and why calls did not go through. Jacobs staff notified DEQ immediately. Notices were posted online at the boat launch of the spill and possible dangers. Any possible contamination or danger would have been downstream. There was no concern for water at or near the boat launch, Thunder Island, the marina, or Marina Beach. Samples were taken for E. coli and came back safe levels Saturday morning, which is the earliest we could get results back.
Who's, oh, God, sorry.
So have we found out why these calls?
Nope.
Are we going to find out?
I hope so. Haven't heard anything yet.
And if it had worked, would there also have been a call saying that everything was tested okay and it's an all clear? I didn't like having to wait until Monday to find out that the applied test came back good. I mean, so if the call went out that to notify the on-call staff that it failed, would there also be a call that came to let the staff know that everything was okay, and then you guys could tell residents?
Yes, so, and that was a bit of a breakdown in communication. I had talked to Jacobs Friday before I left and told them, text me, let me know what the results are Saturday. They emailed me, they never texted me. And so I found out, as soon as I found out Monday morning, I put the notice out that everything was safe, so, yeah.
My question is, whose pump is it?
It's the city's, but it's a brand new pump, just put in by JW Fowler, who's still down at our wastewater facility, updating. So there's a little bit of finger pointing going on who's gonna pay for it and who ends up paying for any fine from DEQ.
Oh, so this is, okay, I thought it was at the marina, like where they store the boats and you can offload your sewage. But it was the new station,
It's the new one on the west end,
yeah, okay,
just downriver from the boat launch.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Figuring that one out. I don't know if it'll be a fine, but I don't want to pay for it. It's a brand new pump, should be under warranty. So,
That's gonna be a big.
We paid one of these fines already too.
yeah, we paid about $9,000 when I first got here for a spill that happened like a year earlier.
All of these safety systems have a redundancy built into them. The fact we've had two of these issues in the time that I've been on council, I feel like is really concerning. And, you know, we're paying this company to operate our waste treatment facility. And they've had two spills, that we've had reportable spills, and one of them resulted in significant fines. Yeah, I feel like we need a little more information about this, why this is happening, and why the redundancy in the system is not catching at the stage before we actually have sewage spilling into it.
And then the calls, why they're not going through.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, so it's two failures, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't, the likelihood of having two failures, or failed multiple redundancy, like that just, there's more to this story.
Yeah. Looking at it.
Like why, how and why, and then what are they gonna do to prevent it?
Mhm.
So the next step.
Yeah.
What things are gonna implement?
We have a member of the audience who has a question, that's up to council, if you'd like to entertain the comment and or question.
Just want to throw out the idea that, the guy who installed, the company that installed the pump, more than likely they're bonded, and you could get the fine taken care of by calling their surety bond.
But obviously our attorney will get involved as needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if as needed, yeah.
Right.
Mayor. This is my third time raising my hand on East Brenda, and I'm a community member. But this is my third time. I wanted to point out during the council procedures, when you guys were talking, that it works both ways, where the council treats the community members all equal. Well, this guy just raised his hand after I raised my hand twice, and you called on him. So I just wanted to point that out, like, it was very clear and very frank on our minds, fresh.
I did not see your hand up.
I don't either.
Yeah.
No, so, all right, let's continue.
Finance policy and community funds request form, I had asked council last time about the community funds form, as I wasn't clear on it. As I dived into it, and obviously some other issues have come up about finances, I felt it was better to really have this built into the finance policy, which is typically revised at the beginning of each calendar year. That did not happen this year because of the issues with council vacancy and everything else going on this year. So I would propose that this is actually a topic for the work session next month on October 9th. I'm trying to put together a draft of best practices from other cities. And again, have a discussion just like we did tonight about finance policy and updating it, so it fits the city's operations.
And then give basket issue will be.
Yeah, all of that, yeah, how, at what level council needs to get involved. What is determined as a day-to-day operations and what is considered extra for council for approval, yeah. McCord Creek Bridge, the city has done extensive legal and property record searches and has been unable to find any documentation, easement or right of way that gives us the authority to actually be in ODOT's right of way. What I'm assuming happened is these power lines were built back in the thirties and early forties before I-84 was ever dreamed up. Then they built I-84 and we had the same path. So therefore, the state has the power to tell us to move our electrical system at our expense. City staff and BKI engineers have reviewed the site and mapped out a new route. And there's actually more information since I sent this out. We thought the rough estimate would be about $800,000. BKA had a contractor come out. They're estimating $1.4 million. There may be another route that's cheaper. We prefer this route on the south side, so we're just out of the way. There is another route we could stay on the north side, do a temporary run over the highway and run underneath an access road, preferably not. So we're getting an estimate on what that would cost. There's also another route to go on the south side. If we don't go, they're recommended 36 inches down, only go to that first level of rock, which has typically been about 24 inches, and then capping it with concrete would be cheaper than having to dig through all of that rock. So we're getting estimates for all of that. There are a couple grants, possibly through Oregon Department of Energy. Yeah, energy. I'm actually meeting with their resource specialist later in October to go over this project and see if it meets any funding they have available, so.
And does ODOT have no funding available for us to do
ODOT's running out of money. They are running out of money, they're not gonna give us a penny.
And remind me again of why they need this land back?
So it's the eastbound lane of I-84 over McCord Creek Bridge, it's about mile marker 37. I go over it every morning, it's bumpy and it's crappy.
Mm.
I just had a question about that, because in the past, I remember when the bridge was repaired, we had some sort of understanding, I don't know, have you asked like previous people in charge of the electrical department to find?
Yeah, my understanding, Moffett, the bridge over Moffett Creek, which is a couple miles closer this way, they updated and ODOT paid for that one to have our lines moved, but they will not pay for this one. Like I said, they're running. So yes, mile marker 37 eastbound. It runs along the south side of 84 and then cuts underneath the bridge and then goes west on the north side, serves a handful of houses on the north side, but then jumps back across at some point farther down, I think about mile marker 35, maybe not even that far, maybe 36. So we're trying to move everything, shift everything over to the south side and only have the one jump over farther down.
And how
That's
much of
800,000
that?
slash 1.4 million solution.
Correct. Yep. There might be a cheaper way where there's an access road on the north side and just trenching it through there and getting it underground. I mean, it doesn't have to go underground. I'd like to put it underground, so the more underground, the less fire risk there is.
Right.
So we underground it, but it still has the issue that we're crossing. I don't know what genius designed this. It goes underneath the eastbound bridge and then goes inside of the westbound bridge and runs inside the bridge all the way across. It makes like it's in the concrete. It's the weirdest thing.
Oh.
So, in 50 years, when they replace the westbound bridge, we're gonna have to do this again. So we're trying to get it out of the bridge. I mean, it won't be my problem in 50 years, but I'd rather be done with it now.
So you said there is, you've already looked in to see if there was a grant that we could.
There is a grant available. They haven't said when they're kicking out the money. It's federal pass-through money. Yeah.
And so why is this coming into an issue now?
Well, so apparently the city was approached about this about a year ago, and I didn't find out about it until June. when ODOT reached back out to us. I had no idea this was a thing until June.
I remember hearing anything about anything about it.
Yeah. And so they actually sent a letter, they want us to have all of our infrastructure moved and out of the way by October 31st, 2024, so we have a year.
So when do they want this out of the way?
13 months from now.
It seems like something where we can get some additional support from some, people who are having some political food chain and maybe oversee ODOT.
Correct.
Well, and it seems like, it's not our issue, but you have to be the ones that have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Do we need to get Senator Wanham and Representative Elfrich on our side?
It wouldn't hurt.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
This is the first we're hearing about it.
And I mean, not particularly the actual moving of the power line, just so you're aware. They, in the spring, summer of 25, they're gonna start construction by creating a bypass to make it one lane. But they're not actually gonna do the bridge replacement until spring, summer of 26. Apparently some law or policy where they can't go down to one lane during winter. But for the spring, summer of 2026, that's gonna be one way, both ways, all summer.
There had to be an agreement originally, that
We
somewhere,
can't find any.
somewhere.
I apparently, Gordon had Ruben, our city attorney, do a very extensive record search, and we can't find anything. So, and Councilman Miller has his hand up.
So, Bill Randolph was a retired groundsman here, and he was 1970. He's still alive here in town. Bill probably had an idea what happened with that.
Bill Randolph?
Bill Randolph.
Okay.
Cause you didn't hear anything about this, did you, Tom?
Well, I knew that there were a couple things that went on 2 different times, and when they were doing the city highway. They moved the city over to one side, and then they decided to change what we're gonna do, and they made us move it. They made us move, we were gonna go down the north side, then they made us go over to the south side. And underground, then they turned around, put fill on top of all of that. But that was Tracy Up, and Tracy Up was no, I think the one through McCord was earlier than the city highway, that made. I know a friend of the gorge had them, Gorge Commission had them put underground by Mobile Falls. So there were a couple places that they wanted to, view areas that they wanted the city to put underground. I don't know about McCord, whether it was part of the city highway or part of some other. But Bill.
Okay.
All right.
Councilman Miller's got his hand up.
Oh, Councilman Miller?
All right, I would recommend that you send off letters to Earl Blumenauer and Merkley and Wyden. This is an interstate freeway. So it belongs to the federal government. And I would get them involved.
Okay.
How about county commissioners? Is that helpful at all? Because this is a portion of the freeway that connects various counties. And are those homes that are being served in Hood River County or?
No, this is all in Multnomah County. I'm gonna guess Multnomah County doesn't care about us.
But are they allowed to not care about those homes?
It's in our jurisdiction to provide power. I have a virtual meeting with Multnomah County planning staff on Wednesday. Because in addition, this is also in the National Scenic Area, which has to get approval for any construction work in the National Scenic Area, so. Yeah. Good. So I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
In the packet was a list of, I asked council for a list of topics for a joint meeting with the port. Attaches that list, I don't know if council want to take a few minutes to condense this list, or we're good with this entire list and send it to the port.
I don't see anybody on there.
Well, I would send this, whatever this list ends up being, whether it's this or condensed, I'd send it to,
No, but I mean, I only see 3 council members giving
That's-
input.
all I got back.
I did not submit.
And if I missed any, I apologize, but this is all I got back.
And I know that we had talked about when we get our, vision plan back. So we wanted to implement with some of that in the work session.
On the list, I was wondering if maybe we could condense some of these, like you have rec center and I put flex 6. So maybe it's commercial real estate development, you know, where we can talk about, could that. I don't know that we need a whole session talks about flex 6, but I'd like to know kind of what's happening in flex 6 affects the seven. So that's why I put that down.
Yep. Yeah, I figured, yeah.
It's on topic.
Yeah, I don't mind real estate business, I don't have, if you can squish them together.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so really, I guess, so combining flex 6 with real estate.
Well, the rec center and flex 6, what was what were you thinking of with rec center? What were you?
I'm thinking more of a place for the kids to come and them having property that might be able to, help organize a rec center. I believe. So it's not really.
It's not really
I mean, it
real
could
estate
be part of
environment.
flex 6, if they take flex 6 and they divide it into increments, then yeah, an increment of it could maybe be a rec center. But otherwise, I think it's kind of different.
Got it, okay, I didn't
Yeah.
understand what you meant.
One's commercial, one's.
Yeah,
Never mind.
okay.
Any other to add to it?
And I had not seen a list from the Port Commission yet either. I'll reach out to GM Blue to get that list.
But yeah, I think flex 6 could maybe get rolled into their business development or real estate projects.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't need to necessarily be.
Well, yeah,
Can citizens have input in that? I mean. The fire, the EMS department, they've never once lifted a finger to help the city out in that area. Should be a topic of discussion, especially now since they're considering drinking in the park.
We do have sheriff coverage and security officer on it.
Maybe at that cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And roll that one more into a general public safety discussion.
We're going to put some cost sharing on there too, so I think that. Maybe that's what you were bringing up, this idea of sharing the resource and the cost, is that right?
Yeah, I think all of these would be joint projects to really reach some of the bigger goals we want as a city. Is gonna take a lot of teamwork. Thank you. Let's see here. I had GoodLife Home Buyers on here, but I was kind of already discussed with them. Couple things added, in this last week here, the Hood River County. Commissioners, what they are, commissioners are holding interviews for their administrator on Friday, October 13th. A couple months ago, they've asked if we were interested in participating, so they've now set a date. Want to know if we'd still like to participate, so it would be Friday, October 13th, and it would be an all-day event. So I don't remember if Councilor Miller said he was interested or not.
He's in the
But I think,
LOC. Meeting.
oh, it is that,
Yeah,
it is that,
it is.
that is that,
It is.
that's right, yeah,
So you, Councilor Miller, myself,
that's right, yeah.
Baker, so that leaves.
I'd like to check with and see if I can do it.
Okay.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, do they have an administrator right now that's in?
Yes, yeah, Jeff Hexel
So he's staying.
is staying on till they get a new person. Yeah, he was hoping to retire August 1st, I think, but he said he's willing to stay
So
on.
we know how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
You may have seen it or may have noticed it, we have replaced all of the streetlights on Wanapa and Forest Lane to Hammond with the new LED white lights, so if you drive downtown tonight, they've all been replaced with the updated lights, that will put us at about 75 total new lights across town, that's 30% of all lights, which reaches our goal of 25 we set earlier this year, so. And we are looking at buying a few more to replace more and have backers, so. And then, let's see here, our new hours start next week, October 2nd, from 8 AM to 6 PM Monday through Thursday. And Hood River Garbage will have their trailer out here next to City Hall, October 5th through 9th, to collect any old unwanted garbage cans. Empty or full.
If they're full, they'll.
Yep, I don't know what kind of trailer it is, so actually feeding them into the back of the trailer, I don't know. They just said trailer, so.
Okay, on the, I know this is a trial run and it hasn't been voted in permanently, but do we have some kind of signage that we could put over the existing signs of the hours of?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because they're all over the place and, okay.
Yep, we'll do that, work on that this week, get them updated, like we talked about. I don't want to spend any money on permanent flags, yeah.
Yeah.
And then as we talked at about the 4 or 5 months mark, we'll start putting out surveys to get feedback on the new hours, so.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I got.
Alright, mayor and council comments. So let's start with the traveling. Councilman Miller?
Well, I'm gonna make mine short. The one thing we talked about was this expenditure of a gift basket for the Oregon Mayors Association. The mayor needs to reimburse the city the money spent on this gift basket. This was beyond routine expenses and must be approved by a council first. It was not. Part of that gift basket was purchased in Hood River. So it had no connection with Cascade locks. And tourism money was spent on it, which is a violation of the TLT laws. So the mayor needs to reimburse the city for this money. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm happy.
Just wanted to say, I feel like we had a good discussion last week at the work session. And again, continuing that discussion, I appreciate the draft that you provided for the county procedures. And I thought that there was a lot of different ways of looking at it, reading it. And so I really appreciate you bringing up the comments about decorum as well. And the more that we can get these things clarified and more clearly stated, I think the easier it is for the mayor to run and for all of us to participate in. So I just really appreciate everybody's participation, including the people that came from the citizens that came forward to speak on that subject. So thank you. And again, as I said during your presentation, I appreciate the fact that we come to us with solutions, not just problems. And so thank you for helping us through this as well. That's all I got.
I don't have too much. So is the community vision steering committee gonna be on October 9th? Are they gonna be coming? Are they on the
Yes.
agenda?
Yes, it is out for final review for the committee. They have their comments to myself and Amanda from UofO by close of business tomorrow. She'll be doing the final edits and comments or updates and have it ready for a draft for council review on the 9th. If that changes, I'll let you know.
Okay. Let's see here. I just wanted to share a comment that I got from a resident. It was about the roll cards and stuff, but a light bulb went off. He had said that instead of implementing the $4 for the little carts, that would have been better used to do $4 towards police coverage. And I know he meant in lieu of, but I never even thought of that, about putting that on a voting on the ballot to have people on their bill, paid for police coverage to help us with that. I mean, I never thought of it. So anyway, I wanted to share that. And then, the only other thing I had was gonna thank Jordan for addressing the bathrooms downstairs, for Blue Bay. And thank you for your attention.
Right.
Again, thank you to everybody who came to speak and for staff for all that they do. I really appreciate in particular that Jordan was looking at finances and said that we need to bring this to financial policy and dig deeper. I appreciate Councilman Miller asking for us to look at procedures and check with the attorney. Are we changing these in the manner that we can legally do it? And that some of our citizens have mentioned some of our ordinances, as we have noticed as well, or our language is not, we inherited a lot of things that are not clear or have changed. And how are we going about updating some of these things? And I want to point out again, I've mentioned it before, that I have spoken with other city councilors and mayors at conferences who have committees that help with some of this, whether it's grant writing, and of course that it would be people who thought they were good at that and bring things to us that we would vote on. They wouldn't vote on anything. So I'm hoping that this council might eventually put in a work session some ideas for temporary committees that might be helpful to us. Whether it was a ordinance review and recommendation committee or a livability group, I've heard from others. Again, transportation committee, I had talked about that before, might help with ongoing speed issues, and as the industrial land by the port increases in hopefully new businesses, traffic will increase, and we need to think about that. Is that a committee we want to talk about? Are there enough people interested? And according to our rules or our procedures, pardon me, the mayor would create temporary committees and decide if it's 5 or 7, and of course we would approve, and the mayor would come up with council approval on the duties there. It's just something that I know there's so much for us to think about. And if we can get people who are passionate or good at, some of these people who are good at looking at possibly updating ordinances or things, just hopefully this council will have a work session soon to talk about that. And that's all. Thank you. Happy fall to everyone.
I want to echo Mr. Happy's thoughts. That was a wonderful conversations that we had tonight. And people addressed issues and brought up concerns, and it was an opportunity for us to hear all different perspectives. I want to thank you to the citizens. Your viewpoints never, ever, ever go on deaf ears, and they're always being heard, and they're always being filed away. Thank you to Abundant Minds and how to create our electrification and develop sustainability within it. And then lastly, when we partake in our democracy, we take on an incredible burden that engages us in civility and discourse. And with the continued rehashing of history within this community, that shows that the burden hasn't been taken on to reach a level of civility and reach a level of respect that is garnered within this community. So just remember, if you're going to engage in this democracy, you have a burden to be respectful and to be kind and to listen to open ideas and learn from all perspectives that are presented to you.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you, city, getting all the staff, getting everything together. Thank you, Councilor Happy, for running the meeting, and to everyone. It sounds like it was a really good conversation. We've got a lot of good things that are coming out of that. Really appreciate everyone coming and presenting. Everyone, the citizens, to echo Councilman Keller's, we really do appreciate and want to hear from all the individuals in the city. So always appreciate open comment. To kind of go back on Councilman Keller, also, I just encourage, I mean, this is not an easy job for anybody. It's not easy to sit there as a citizen and talk. It's not easy out here. But I always look at it, there could be differences of opinion. But the one thing I think everyone can agree on is we all want a peaceful community. We all want a community we're proud of, and that people are civil and kind to each other. Nothing ever happens when you hear like beating of the dead horse, nothing ever happens for that. It doesn't get you anywhere. And then, I just really, about the finances, that we're gonna have that as a work session, the next meeting. And then also, as a council member, if you've got to respond, if I call you, if I text you or something, we gotta have open communication. If there's a challenge, come talk to me. Nothing would happen in the entire world if people just sat there and said, well, I'm not gonna ever talk to you because I don't like you. That doesn't work. It's unacceptable. So we can agree to disagree all day long, but we're gonna be kind and respectful to one another, always. And then, this last week I met with Breeze, Senator Wyden's rep out here, and had, Brad Lorraine. He met with me, lots and lots of great ideas from Bree, and, she said a lot of good things. So we're gonna have further discussions down in Eugene at the LOC conference. She'll be there. Lots of good ideas on housing, workforce housing, and also Wyden's, he says Cascade locks, I haven't really paid attention to them. I said, I like that. So, anyway, it was just a really good meeting, really appreciative of Brad Wright attending that meeting as well. And just everyone, thank you for being online, and if I forgot anything, so. And that's it. Get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. I second.
All in favor? Roll call vote?
Who seconded?
I do.
Councilmember Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller.
From Huntsville, Alabama, aye.
Erica.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Butch.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Safe travels.